Hello, everybody. This is a male space, and today I have with me Chad Cross. He's a former SWAT officer, former Marine, a police officer in St. Louis, Missouri, and business owner. And he and I got to chatting through the internet some time ago. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. And then we caught up again on Instagram and started talking again and decided to have a conversation here related to men's matters. And on my channel, I want to address several matters that are affecting men in the current day, but I'm also interested in, let's say, talking to men of various backgrounds, what they went through in life, any challenges that they had, or just any input that they have on the current male experience. So, would you like to say anything about yourself for your introduction?
Hey, like Brad said, my name is Chad Cross. Brad and I have been friends on T Nation for quite some time, and like you said, we just decided to catch up, pool our resources, and try to get some good information out here, and hopefully get some men that are struggling or lost on the right path. Born and raised in St. Charles, Missouri, which is a suburb of St. Louis. I was a St. Louis City police officer for 15 years, 5 years full time on the SWAT team. I was a United States Marine right out of high school as an infantryman, and I taught marksmanship. And then I was 7 years on the Army side, and it's good to be here. And I know we're going to get some great information and great perspective out there for some of our fellow men.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. And also, what is your education like? Did you have any hobbies growing up? Meaning, what was your childhood like if you like to delve into that as far as, let's say, education and hobbies or anything that you were doing and, in the era that you were.
This is before I think we kind of understood, certain behavioral. I don't want to call them disorders. I had to take a couple of special. I'm pretty sure I had hyperactivity types of disorders, ADHD, OCD. I couldn't pay attention to save my life. I needed constant stimulation. So it seems like I wasted my talent. I had maybe a C average. Then after high school and the military, I went to a university here, Linden, kind of on the peripheral. They were always quiet in class, or they just didn't seem to want to be there, and neither did I. But I've always had an interest in science and biology. I've never passed a math class. So you just put us in a special class,
I,
basically separate the wheat from the chaff.
I understand, but it turns out that you're not weak though, that you are intelligent and physically.
A school teacher, and the definition of education was basically anything that improves your quality of life. And I'm like, wow. I mean, the more educated you are,
Or hobbies when you were young?
sure. Burning bugs with magnifying glasses, setting fires, structure fires. Typical Midwest childhood. I grew up right on the Missouri River. The Missouri River is literally just a couple blocks from my childhood home, so we were on the river all the time. Sand, but the 45-pound barbell, like I guess about 300 pounds, 295 pounds worth of weights. So we had a bench, we had a curl bar. I think we were still in grade school, towards the end of grade school when we got that. So, I've always been drawn to, and it's probably because as a kid I was smaller than average. I mean, my body looked like an anatomical chart. I was pretty shredded. But when you're like 75 pounds, that's not hard. But always been interested in physicality, pushing myself physically, and then years down the road, I understand that there's a much larger mental component to that too. And they go hand in hand. So I took up wrestling, BJJ, MMA, any sort of grueling, backbreaking work that breaks most people mentally is exactly what I'm drawn to. And I still, to this day, it's still, basically who I am. So, fishing, a lot of fishing, hunting, we had some property and, in the woods all the time. I think it's just such a different thing now. Like most kids seem to have an aversion to sunlight now. You got to drag them kicking and screaming out of the fucking house off of their gadgets and shit. I rarely see them in the neighborhood, riding bikes or, building ramps out of newspapers and shit like we used to do. And I think a lot is lost, and it's sad to see. Yeah, they can beat Zelda with one person, with one freaking whatever it is, character or whatnot. Um, but man, I mean, if I were to be like, hey, let's go build a clubhouse or let's build a blanket fort, they'd probably look at you like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? So then I don't want to be that, those two cranky Muppets up there in the fucking balcony, like, the old fucking Muppet show. bitching about the generations behind us. But let's be real, man. Times have changed dramatically, and I don't know how much of it has been beneficial. We evolve as people, obviously, but I think life is way, way, way too easy now. The thought of pushing out of your comfort zone or breaking out of your comfort zone, even when it includes self-destructive habits, is just people just refuse to do it, man. I mean, look at the obesity epidemic, the mental health crisis, and it's all linked together, and it's sad. It's really sad. So I don't have children, and if I did, I would lock them out of the house for about at least a 12-hour period and just say, the creek is that way, this is that way, go fucking figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yes, I can't relate being a guy from Queens, New York. I cannot relate that much with Midwest living. However, when I
Oh,
was
sure, yeah.
when I was younger, I mean, I'm borderline Gen X. I am, let's say, what they people call a Xennial. So I was born, on that cusp of Gen X going into the millennial generation, but I still had the Gen X experience. I mean, I had the experience, meaning being out of the house, except for eating and sleeping, really almost all hours of the day being out of the house. Now, I
Yeah.
was not hunting and fishing and playing in clubhouses, but mostly the experience in Queens was, let's say, riding bikes all over the place, riding a bike to different neighborhoods, taking a bus somewhere, going to a pool hall on a popular, boulevard or avenue.
Yeah.
Francis Lewis Boulevard was there. People would just drive their car around in circles trying to chase women at late hours of the night. People would
Like,
pull to a car woman and say, pull over, things
yeah.
like that. Yes.
Brett, we don't have to chase women anymore. We make a profile and just swipe on them, and they come right to you.
Yes. Yeah.
There's no
Right.
skill involved at all. You
Right.
don't have to. There's none of those, those butterflies and those jitters and
Yes.
those approach fears and stuff. And I'm like, hey, go get rejected. Who gives a shit, man? You're gonna
Right.
fucking live. Build that fucking armor. You need it for everyday life anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the entire notion of some sort of serendipitous meeting. My girlfriend had met. I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's incredible. It's something you see in a movie, man, and I value that so much because I mean everything, every sort of relationship we have, business, personal, interpersonal, romantic, all built on such shaky foundations now, it seems like, and nothing ever seems to last at all. And so I never ever take, our relationship for granted. It's like the anchor in my life, to be honest, man. It keeps me grounded for everything else. So very, very fortunate for that.
Yes. That is great. Now, if we could remind a little bit before we go into the relationship topic, we were talking, and you've seen my videos in which I talk about the fatherless crisis. And I've already opened up about my experience being fatherless for all practical purposes, because even though I had a dad, technically speaking, he was negligent and severely mentally ill. Now, I don't want to make this a pity party. I'm just saying that I knew what it's grow up mostly fatherless. So you and I were chatting, and if you're comfortable, can you tell me some of your experience growing up with your family? If you want to get into it, that's fine. If you don't, if you want to go into a little detail, a lot of detail, that's fine. Now, a lot of what I see as, let's say, some of the issues deal with men these days, considering that either men are growing up, 25% of households now, if I have the figure correctly, are fatherless, and even some of the men who are growing up with fathers are growing up in a sort of a matriarchal type of home. So, if you would like to share some of your experience, do you think that some troubles or issues or challenges in your life was from home life, or let's say it was just you were having some, like you said, challenges with education? I don't. I mean, I think that you have plenty of positive qualities. I don't consider a young man with a lot of energy who doesn't want to sit still all day as having a problem. And that's maybe something we should talk about also in this video or later. Is that, I mean, I'm not a psychologist, but are these disorders, or this is just simply young, ambitious, aggressive young men, which I don't find a problem with. But go ahead. I don't want to ramble too
Yeah,
much.
so my biological father left before I remember, and I know him. I wouldn't say we have any sort of relationship, but if he calls, I don't send him the voicemail. I'll tie. And in fact, he called me about 2 weeks ago. I hadn't seen him. It seems like I only see him at funerals. I saw him at my grandma when we buried my grandma, and I saw him at my his brother, my uncle Billy's funeral. and we exchanged some, some ubiquitous pleasantries and kind of just went our own way. But he's big into fishing, he's big into hunting. So I'll talk hunting and fishing with anybody. And he called and he said, "Hey, did you text me?" And I'm like, "Well, did it have my fucking name and number on the? If not, then it wasn't me." And I don't know if that was just some ham-fisted segue into, talking to me. But we talked for about 45 minutes. Well, he talked and I listened. All he did was brag about my younger brother, who is just now coming out of a complete fuck up phase. The kid squandered an incredible amount of talent. He played amateur hockey in Europe. He is a genius with his hands. So our grandfather at one time was one of the most sought after welders in the country. My grandfather was an absolute fucking genius when it comes to, mechanical sort of work and stuff and working with your hands and just the kindest, sweetest, most generous man I've ever known. Uh, I got zero talent. Zero fucking everything I've earned has been through just, grinding and hard work and dedication. But I was adopted when I was maybe 4 or 5 by my stepdad. He had two sons already. One of us are coincidentally, Shannon and I are only 20 days apart in age. And then my older brother Shane is about a year and a half older than us. He just turned 50. And then him and my mom had a son that passed away at 2 from leukemia. So I have no doubt at all because all the research, all the data, whether it's anecdotal or a meta-analysis bears out that children that grow up without fathers are in bad fucking shape. And I think mothers as well. I just think what a father brings to the family dynamic is completely different than what the mother brings. It is a balance. And when they tell you always hear about girls with daddy issues, I never say that condescendingly because I've seen girls that do suffer from those things and it's heartbreaking. They look for validation in all the wrong places and it's typically always self-destructive behavior. Um, and if you're a shiftless layabout, no show dad, fuck you. You're a fucking coward and a punk. And because you do irreparable damage to young boys and young girls. And so when we hear the daddy issues thing, it sounds like a pejorative. It's condescending, and it's, let's be honest, we say it in an insulting way. I don't do that. I'd rather we say something else. Hey, these are the logical outcomes and the predictable consequences of growing up without a father in the home. You're far, far, far more likely to be a juvenile delinquent, to have severe mental and emotional problems, to end up in jail, probably to have a shitty credit score. I mean? There's just a ton of stuff attached to it. And there's been a concerted effort, a very purposeful effort by, I don't know who these people are. Let's just call them the people behind the curtains, like the Wizard of Oz, the people that stand to gain by destroying that family dynamic, by destroying a patriarchal society. Patriarchy, destroy the patriarchy. Well, good, do it to your own detriment, stupid. I don't fucking care. I think stupid people should suffer the consequences of stupid decisions. It's the only way you fucking learn. When I see a red hot stove and I see somebody touch it and scream in pain, guess what Chad's not going to do? I'm not going to touch that fucking stove. Okay. And I think what we need to do, especially with women and especially young girls, I think they're more lost than young men. I think everybody's lost and on the wrong path. I I've told my girlfriend, and she doesn't need me she doesn't need me to remind me that she's the smartest human being I know. But I said, your power lies in your ability to make me feel comfortable in my masculine. Your feminine energy is where your power comes. You could fucking melt me. You're the only person in this world that can fucking break me because you can treat me with kindness and decency. Men ask very little. We just want to be respected and appreciated, and she does that. And she does a great job. And that's why our relationship is so strong, is because we balance each other out. But I reserve a softness for her as well. You can call it feminine energy. Well, we are each other's sanctuary, basically. But I also know she's incredibly strong and can stand on her own 2 feet. And she knows that about me as well. And it's about when you understand every dynamic in nature, from the smallest happenings at the cellular, at the nuclear level, to supernovas, the largest thing we know in existence. Everything is dependent upon balance. Every fucking thing. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, the yin and the yang, the philosophical paradigm. It's it's about balancing each other, and I think at that very important point in children's lives where they're young and developing, the formative years, discipline and the masculine energy, I think is just more important at that time and in that time frame. And there's a time to be soft and there's a time to be kind, but when you're molding something, you make it as strong as possible. But when something is malleable, it's actually stronger. When something is rigid, it's not as strong. Why do you think skyscrapers, if you ever look at them and you look up, you stand next to it and you look up, you can see them sway a tiny bit. The St. Louis Arch has a little bit of sway to it because when something is too rigid, it's brittle. When it's a little bit malleable and it has some flex to it, it's much, much stronger. And that's about the balance. It's rigid, but it's flexible. You know what I mean? And so I am eternally grateful for my dad for adopting me. And we had a really, really weird family dynamic. My brothers had a mom, and we had spent time with her. And she got remarried, and she married my stepdad. And him and I have always been two peas in a pod. He was always into bodybuilding and weight training and fitness. And he had a gym at one time, and I worked there with him. And so I really, really lucked out when it comes to, having male role models. And you can't overstate that enough. You're going to get the outcomes when an outcome is predictable. We should probably unpack that, whatever that paradigm is, and be like, hey, we know if we take this out of the equation, the odds of it being really bad outcomes is really fucking high. If that makes sense.
It does make sense. I totally agree with that. Now, moving on, how did your experiences that you're talking about right now bring you to the men's space online? Because I remember after I had a conversation with Paul Elam uh, some weeks ago, you told me that Paul Elam is great, and we both think that Paul Elam is great.
He's ruthless, man. He goes, that motherfucker is ruthless. I love it. I, I think, Brad, I think we need people that just go for the fucking jugular, that don't skirt the issues, they're not worried about offending. Listen, my purpose is never to offend you. It's never to rub your nose in your stupidity. Yes, it is. It's never to make you feel stupid or less than. I simply say we have a problem. Let's fucking fix it. Why can't we just fix? I like to fix problems. It'd be like, I despise litter and I hate litter. If I see you littering, I'll take you to jail. I can't stand it. It drives me fucking nuts. It seems petty, for a guy that's locked up murderers and dope men and all this and that to lock up a litter bug. But it's like a bunch of people standing around in a circle and there's a piece of litter and nobody wants to pick it up. Why? Why don't we just say everybody come to the my solution has always been, you have a problem. I have a problem. It's our collective problem. Let's come to a table. Let's flesh it out and let's not leave here until we find some compromise or some middle ground. It's conflict resolution is all it is. And I like Paul's approach because listen, he's right. You know what I mean? Could he, and I had a girl, she's a friend of mine, and she's on my training and nutrition program, and she was making incredible strides. And every time I'd make a video or something, she'd be like, hey, maybe you should word it like this and this so you're not so, I'll just use some synonyms, so gruff, so overbearing. I'm like, that's my fucking brand. That's what people like about me. They like that when I say, hey, tell me what you ate yesterday. Well, I was in a hurry, so I'd have, instead of having my steak and eggs for breakfast, I just had, a bowl of, Choco Puffs and a fucking maple crawler from the gas station. I'm like, unacceptable. Why? You didn't, I gave you all the tools to do this. I gave you the right tools to do the job. You pick the wrong tools to do the job, you're not going to get the outcomes you want, and I can appreciate Paul's approach. But at the same time, having been a cop for 16 years, zero use of force complaints because I can talk these motherfuckers into putting cuffs on just by treating them with courtesy and respect. It's a tactic. So if I can get better outcomes just by adjusting the way I speak or approach, I can do that. You know what I mean? I'm not so dogmatic and set in my ways, but there's certain things I'm not willing to bend on. Um, But yeah, Paul's dude's a pit bull, man. I love his I love he's
Yes,
great.
he is great. But one might think, not me per se, because I've gotten to know you, one might think in the audience of all these male spaces online, the so-called manosphere, whatever we want to call them, one might think, well, why would this guy turn to Paul's material or anybody else's men's focused materials when this guy's built, this guy's attractive, this guy has a woman, this guy has a great job, he has military experience? They would think to themselves, judging by the cover of the book, so to speak, they would say, this guy doesn't need his material. Why would he turn up here? He has his life is awesome. But then, as you're saying here, people do not see what's in the inside of men sometimes. Good.
Let me expound on that. That is all there is to it. Like when I look at myself, I see a worm looking back at me. I see a failed man. I see a man with many, many flaws that I need to fix. I see a guy, I'm not lean enough, my delts aren't big enough, my traps aren't big enough yet. And it's always in our own fucking heads. The shit we make up is the problem was always bigger up here than it is in reality. And a girlfriend of mine a long time ago said, she's like, Chad, even really pretty girls are very insecure. And I'm like, that was like a light bulb moment right there. Because no matter what you look like, no matter what when I look at you, I'm like, God, dude, Brad is fucking jacked. That dude
Thank
looks
you.
fucking awesome, man. He's
Hey,
highly intelligent. He's affable. This dude should be pulling every fucking single woman in fucking Long Island or
well,
Flatbush. Any you can have any woman in any borough you want, brother.
I
Um,
would think I would want, but I don't know if I can. I'm not sure if I'm that attractive. But go ahead. Yes, thank you.
but I mean, the point being, like, well, how does Brad see himself? The way you see yourself is a direct reflection of how you carry yourself, or
Yes.
actually vice versa. How you carry yourself is a direct reflection of how you see yourself. And I am incredibly hard on myself. My conscience is constantly fucking gnawing at me. I'm like, you know what, man? I was mean to that kid in third grade, and if I ever see him, I'm gonna fucking apologize. It is that bad. And the vast majority of the problems we have in our minds are always just overly exacerbated than what they are. Um, so I I just I why I'm I you know it's just a curiosity. What are these people saying? And the biggest one is, what do people think about police officers? Well, they really think my head pops off the pillow in the morning saying, "Hey, I'm going to go gun down a minority today. Hey, I'm going to go put somebody in prison for a dime bag of weed," which is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard.
Yes.
And I'm like, where the fuck do these people come up with this shit, for one? But two, why do they want it to be true? Because none of it holds up in reality at all by any metric. You know what I mean? And then when you hear women complain, oh, there's men just want this, men just want that. I'm like, well, we are now we're, listen, back when we were growing up, I used to steal titty mags from my barber. Our barber was a complete fucking pervert. He had stacks of old Penthouse, Hustlers, Puritan, all these old magazines. And he would just have them out in front of these kids and shit. We were kids. We'd go in there and it was a $3 haircut. Shorty's famous high and tight was $3. If you gave him a five, you go, ooh, look like I can close up early today. I had stacks of those magazines, and they're probably, if the people living at 816 Concordia now still have that drop ceiling bathroom, if you go down in the bathroom and lift out that center square, there should be a bunch of Penthouse up there in the ceiling if you're listening.
Yes.
That's what we had. We didn't have that. It wasn't constantly fed to us
Right.
everywhere all the time. Now we are overly hypersexualized. This notion of sexual liberation and sexual, yeah, hey, that's great. When I was in the Marine infantry, we are the lowest form of life on earth. And we'd fuck anything. Now I look back and I go, well, with total freedom basically comes a loss of reverence for anything. You don't revere anything, you don't appreciate anything when you have access to anything and everything all the time. For one, your dopamine is basic. It's a finite resource. Now people chase dopamine. They don't chase anything real, anything substantial, anything tangible. Everything is dope, 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 dope. And everything's designed like that. And so, that's why the relationship dynamic it's in the state it's in. And when I hear women say, men are this, all men, it's always like, if you say, hey, some like my favorite. This is one of my this is like the most eye roll worthy cringe fucking, the all cops are bastards fucking. It's like what genius came up with that? If you were to say some cops are bastards, they're like, what? I worked with some guys and some women. They just were real assholes, and it's a subjective matter. Maybe, you probably fit better in elsewhere simply because you just don't treat people with decency and respect. But when you paint with these, but we gotta remember, Brad, it all comes from frustration and hurt. Anger comes from hurt. When somebody's hurt, they get angry or they get frustrated. And to say that all men just want sex, I'm like, well, duh, stupid. That's no fucking revelation. That's why we're a successful species, because we like to fuck. But when you do that in the confines within, a relationship that you hold sacred, when it's a bond of two human beings, when you don't have just these arbitrary, boundaries of respect and love and admiration, it's a million times better. And they have tricked girls into thinking that, basically living like you're a hippie in the 60s and 70s, all the free love, hey, YOLO, FOMO, all that, stupid trash. And thank God we have enough women coming forward and saying, hey, I did that and it destroyed me. It's just not who we are. It's just not how we're wired, man. Men can get away with it more than women, but there's repercussions for men too. Why do you think it's porn addiction is huge for men? There's a lot of women addicted to porn too.
Yes.
Let's not get it wrong. But I couldn't imagine being addicted to, pleasures of the flesh. I'm addicted to my girlfriend. Thank God. I'm not addicted to watching some other dude bang some other woman on a screen while I sit there and watch in the corner like a fucking weirdo. Um, but yeah, as far as gravitating towards the men's space, it wasn't because I was lost or needed guidance. I'm just curious. I want to hear what people are saying. You know what I mean? And you get the red pill guys, the Tates, Myron Gaines, and these guys, God bless them. And here's the thing: everybody's a grifter now. If you say something I don't agree with, it's a grift. It's like no, it's just possibly they just have a different perspective than I do. They call Charlie Kirk a grifter, Candace Owens a grifter. I'm like, but what they're saying is very valuable, and it's rooted in outcomes. Oh, yeah, what a grifter, because he promotes the nuclear family and a strong family and a love a love and a relationship with God and Jesus Christ. Yeah, what a grifter. It's like, go fuck yourself, dude. It just, at least, at the very least, just take yourself out of the fucking gene pool. We don't need fucking cretins like you reproducing. So it was more just out of curiosity because I never really bought into any of that shit. The only thing I think those guys are onto in some respects is understanding the nature of human beings, which includes men. Men, if you take 1,000 random men, there's a very, very good chance that 1,000 of us are going to have at least a handful of things in common that are immutable. Okay. Our sex drive, our certain proclivities, our drive to want to protect and provide for women and children. I have an innate drive to protect. I love and care about children in a way that it's hard to articulate, and a lot of it probably just comes from having a childhood that was pretty rife with fucking being bullied, tormented, made fun of, the things of that nature. And I know how painful that is. And you carry it with you. I might look, formidable now. Inside, I'm still a fucking kid that got bullied and picked on and made fun of. When my ears used to stick out like this, now they're just all, fucking
I
chewed
see.
up and shit. But
Yes.
I'll always be that kid. Hey, you look like a taxi cab with the doors open. Hey, your ears look like baloney on the side of your head. Hey, this or that. You carry that with you, man, and it's so hard to cut loose. And that's why it's so important that we you have strong mentors and role models for you. Because life is hard enough, man. And now with the advent of social media, where some fucking weirdo in Jakarta or in Mumbai can trash talk me on fucking line. It used to just be the neighborhood kids or the kids at school. Now it's literally, you can get piled on from fucking 8,000 miles away. And life is fucking hard enough, man. And I think now it's more important than ever that we just find middle ground with you. Just be each other's support network, man. You know what I mean? You and I, we've never met, but I feel like we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, I made a post quite a while ago. Somebody posted something about veterans, like a veteran suicide awareness hotline, 1-800 this. And I said, no, the right number is, and I left my phone number on there. I said, you guys call me anytime, day or night, if you're struggling. You know what I mean? So the not to get off on another fucking tangent, but the
All right.
men's is just out of curiosity. Like Rich Cooper, him and the are you're familiar with Rich Cooper, I'm sure. Rich and
Yes.
Moff, they have like their
Yes.
show. And it's just like I don't know, I think they're kind of cornballs, you know what I mean? Like Rich is super successful, but it's all about cars. I'm like, dude, I don't fucking care about fucking cars. I know my brother drives a Ferrari. I've never even asked for a ride in because I don't care. If it gets me to point A to point B, I'm fucking fine. But Rich is, cars and this and that. Myron's terrible. All they do is bring on women that
Yeah.
they're low value, they're low quality. Their entire persona is basically just selling pictures of their fallopian tubes on the fucking internet and pictures of their buttholes to fucking weirdos, the kind of weirdos that shoot up schools because they're not getting laid. And there's this big fucking cycle. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, listen, we know you're going to bring on a bunch of dim-witted, low IQ fucking thoughts and fucking hoes. And we get the same outcome every time. Bring on somebody that's going to challenge us. Hey, guys, this is what we want from you. But here, this is an important caveat. If you ask a guy what he wants in a woman, you're going to get a straight answer. You ask a girl what she wants in a man, she'll tell you, but then she picks the opposite every fucking time, and she keeps getting the same outcomes. And listen, this isn't a swipe at women. It's more of like maybe there's something we're not aware of in their biological hardwiring. The dark triad traits. It's just like how come you picked a guy that looks like he eats cigarettes, multiple felonies, can't keep a job, a couple baby mamas in this and that, and he's so exciting. You let him fuck a kid out of you. Now your life's really fucked up. What the fuck is it? I'm like, when women go through a breakup, they cut their hair. You know what I mean?
I know what you're talking about. Yes.
50 of your friends went through a breakup and cut their hair off. 50 of your friends regret it and said, I wish I hadn't done that. But you're going to be the exception. You're going to love having a haircut where you look like Bobby fucking Hill. It's bizarre that it's a complete and utter lack of self-reflection and self-awareness. It's all it is. Like, I know when I look back, nobody put a gun to my head and made me make, various decisions that led to poor outcomes. That was Chad's fault. Okay. I don't ever say, well, I'm insecure and I have hangups and this and that. And I really don't have much of a sense of self-worth. So what am I going to do? I'm just going to go fuck a bunch of random women that I don't care about. They don't care about me. There's an exchange of energies there that's not good. And it eats away at your soul, man. It really does. But I'm aware of that. You know what I mean? I have what I believe is the prettiest girl in the fucking world on my arm. And I'm like, ew, man, I'm just waiting for that fucking shoe to drop when she knows that she can do a hell of a lot better than me, when it comes to looks and stuff. But then she'll tell me these things that just fucking melt you inside. And I'm like, I'm not gonna lose that. I'm not gonna let that hard wiring that's so impossible to overcome get the best of me, because it's one of those things, Brad, we're in a relationship. Well, now all of a sudden I'm not invisible anymore. Now you're sliding into my fucking DMs. Oh, now you want to go on it. Oh, now you want to do this. Now you want to,
Hmm.
see where this can go. I'm like, no, motherfucker. I shut that shit right the fuck down. It is uncanny how many women that I'm not invisible to anymore. You know what I mean? And I straight up tell them, hey, if they say something, that's flattering or kind or sweet, I'm like, hey, listen, thank you for that, but I'm in a relationship and I respect boundaries. You know what I mean? Uh, I shut it down right away, because like I said earlier, I don't take for granted what I have. Because for one, it's so freaking rare now. Two, you can make a movie out of our relationship and how we met and all this and that. But yeah, I'll just leave that at that. But and to pack it up on the men's spaces. I think some of these guys are preying on lost, vulnerable young men. They see a market. I mean, how is Rich Cooper a multimillionaire? How?
Well, I
If the
think
dude, here's the thing, the dude shaves, he has no fucking chin. I shave, you could square a fucking column on my fucking jaw. You shave Rich's, he's probably got one of those turkey fucking flaps.
well,
And another thing, I want to fight the motherfucker. He talks all the time how badass he is, you know. Oh man, and when they do their men's retreats, they're out there like in the fucking Yukon in the wilderness, you know, hitting mitts and running around at creeks and going. "Ugh." I'm like,
I,
you
I
paid $15,000 to do. I could have put you through this on a weekend at the local creek for $50, and then beat the fucking brakes off you and show you, hey, you're not so fucking tough guy. It drives me nuts. I'm like, man, why didn't I think of that? You
yeah.
know what I mean? But I think they saw it. I think the opportunity was too juicy to choose that route instead of being a man of fucking integrity and morals and values and saying, you know what? I'm not going to make money off of these men because they're fucking struggling. They're in terrible places mentally and emotionally. They might not never know what it's like to fucking lie with a woman. But I'm going to convince them that if they just do some push-ups and buy my online course, they'll be fucking beating pussy off with a stick. I think it's I think you can probably call these guys grifters, but if they are, listen, if you leave that fucking shit and you come out the other end a better man, then good. You know what I mean? I don't ever just like to fucking to disparage people or attribute to them something that I could be wrong about. If I have proof, I have proof. If not, this is just conjecture. I think they're kind of preying on these young men a lot of ways. These boss babes prey on young women. You know what I mean? You'll have there's so many women out there that say, you know what, I love being a wife. I love being a mother. I love doing this. I love no, you don't, no, you don't, no, you don't. And I'm
Mhm.
like, let's look at your medicine cabinets. She's got some Advil. You have a mountain of SSRIs. Who's really fucking happy here? And I don't say that in a disparaging way or taking a swipe at it, but I'm like, can we just be honest with ourselves? Fuck, dude. Why don't you just say, hey, I don't want other people to make this mistake. I wish I had started a family. I wish I hadn't divorced my husband because he didn't check off 2,000 fucking, arbitrary fucking check marks, for the man, he's not 6'5" with a fucking 12-inch fucking penis making, $80 million a year and he has washboard abs year round. Well, you go, girl. You deserve better, even though you're a 5 foot fucking tall sack of mashed potatoes. There is a lot, there is an epidemic of delusion out there. That is fucking for sure.
Well, let me just ask you something. It's not just going back to what you're saying. You touched upon a lot of great stuff there. Uh,
You got to reel me in, brother. I go off the fucking tracks. You
okay,
just
so
reel
I
me
will
in.
try.
Just go
I
like
will.
this.
Okay, I'll try my best, and we should definitely try another talk one day also to cover everything we have to say. So
Okay.
you touched upon some good things, but like I was saying to you before on the site before that, it's not just women who have the father issues. The men have the father issues too by the antisocial behavior that we've engaged in sometimes. Even my own brother, actually, who's doing fine now, but engaged in some activity that is not good. So when people use the disparaging term for women that they have daddy issues, I don't really like that. Actually, I am not here to complain about women or disrespect women. I mean, I'm a married man.
Right.
I have a
Neither
wife.
am I. I don't disrespect women. I,
Yeah,
I love and care about women. I,
yes,
I think so many of them are suffering and they're lost. And
yeah.
I have sisters. I have a mom. I have a stepmom, grandmas. A lot of women in my life I care about very deeply. So my thing is, I don't like when people don't take responsibility or accountability for their actions and decisions or their opinions or their outlooks and stuff. That's what I have a problem. It's not your fucking sex. You know what I mean? So please continue.
Right. Yes. I mean, I also have a daughter I mean, a daughter, a son. I'm concerned about both. It's not a matter of the sex. I'm concerned about both growing up in this kind of environment. That's going to continue for a very long time, actually. But let me ask you, do you think that also, despite some of the troubles with women, fatherless women, girls, don't you think that perhaps we were also indoctrinated to a degree as men also to be, let's say, clowns, considering the entertainment that was available in the Gen X era? Meaning we were raised on movies that exhorted us to be clowns and sexual hedonists like Animal House, Revenge of the Nerds, Hard Bodies, Porky's. I mean, yes, these are very funny movies. You and I have spoken about Revenge of the Nerds, right? However,
Fucking top. That's in the pantheon, man. Revenge of the.
it is.
So hey, our
But
our male role models growing up were Ogre, Homer Simpson, Al Bundy, um, all in the fan. Archie Bunker.
right,
It's man. Again, Brad, when you really unpack it, it's just like, okay, why are they feeding us this motif of the dopey, clueless man, and the woman is always the brainiac of the, and maybe it
right.
is, man. I mean, my dad is a very intelligent man. My mom was a smart woman. It's just like you sit there and wonder if is this what they're feeding us? Is there a purpose behind it on their end that we're not aware of? But my thing is that if somebody gives you a fucking, a 12-inch Subway sandwich and it's full of fucking poop, I don't have to fucking eat it. You want to eat it, that's on you.
We
You know
we
what I mean?
yeah,
Stop eating
right,
shit that rots your fucking brain,
right. But we were
metaphorically speaking.
yeah, right. But we were not forced to. But this is what a lot of us grew up in. Either we were being portrayed as clowns, or two, just to be these men like in these movies where the most important thing in the world is to bed down a woman. That's the ultimate goal in life, and to just simply have fun, 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 and to have woman after woman after woman. I mean, don't you think that that was fed to us also? I mean, now we have to come to a point where we get more serious. Um,
Yeah, every quote unquote incel in America should be forced to watch Revenge of the Nerds 1 and 2 because in the end, the nerds get all the chicks. And I've seen objectively beautiful women with men that I'm sitting there going, man, that's not what I thought. You know what I mean? But again, underneath that veneer, underneath that surface, that woman is her own unique human being that might be completely separate from the way you see her. When I look at my girlfriend, holy shit, stunning, smoke show, beautiful, very fit. Um, Underneath that veneer, underneath that surface is a human being that is hard to reconcile is in that body because she's so fucking freakishly, it's scary. Her intellect, her intelligence, her brilliance, her resilience. She's a doctor at a hospital here in St. Louis called Barnes. It's a world renowned medical center. She's on the staff there. Blows my mind, Brad. I'm like, so when I come up with a training theory or philosophy, I'm trying to understand, the biology, the physiology of a certain mechanism, excitation, contraction, coupling, actin, myosin, cross bridging, any of these number of things. I run it by her, and she's like, "Yeah, well, it works like this or it works like that," and it's you have to remember, underneath the surface, I look at you, I go, that dude's jacked, man. He's in awesome shape. He's a good looking dude.
hey,
There's a human being inside there that I don't know. You know what I mean? Inside this body, underneath the scars and the tattoos, is a kid that is about this fucking tall. I'm about that fucking big
yes,
inside. It always will be. But yeah, you are correct. But then back then, when it was being fed to us, I think it was just fucking in good natured fun. Hey, the nerds end up with the chicks. You remember when they had the big carnival and
yes.
everybody was going to the nerds fucking, tent because they were getting the pies and you eat the whipped
I
cream and
remember that. Yes,
Betty
yes,
Child's naked. And I'm like,
yeah,
that was good natured fun back then. Now you're gonna have a dozen lawsuits because of this and that. It's just like, holy fuck. We can't have fun anymore in any way, shape, or form without offending somebody. And I'll say, okay, well, why are you offended by this? And and it's not, I am not obligated to give a fuck about your fucking feelings. Will I out of just human decency? Sure. But if you keep pushing and pushing and pushing, you're gonna get fucking dealt with. Don't fucking push. There's middle ground here. We can find it. We can say, hey, I don't necessarily agree, but I'd rather leave this issue just having a better understanding of each other, if anything. But if I had kids, I'd make them watch Revenge of the Nerds. I'd make them watch Pee Wee's Big Adventure. They'd have to watch the A Team. They would have to watch, old He Man fucking cartoons.
yes.
Because this shit now is 1000% aimed at fucking rotting their impressionable little minds. Like, I didn't want to be a nerd after watching Revenge of the Nerds. I still wanted to be an alpha beta. I'd still rather be Stan Gable or Ogre Pawlowski than Louis fucking Skolnick or Gilbert Lowe. You know what I mean?
Yes,
So. if their goal was to get us to want to be fucking nerds and stuff, it didn't work. But it would never occur to me that there was some nefarious agenda
I
being
understand.
behind
Yes.
Revenge of the fucking Nerds or Porky's
Yeah.
or Animal House, or my all-time favorite. Now, Caddyshack to me is a psyop. There is so much going on behind the scenes there and in the subtleties. Every time I watch Caddyshack, I see some new joke. Harold Ramis, that entire cast, absolute Ted Knight, Bill Murray, Chase, absolute fucking geniuses. And I've seen Caddyshack 1,000. I went through this weird funk about 15, 20 years ago. Had a nice house, had all the amenities, but I was like laying on a box spring in a back bedroom watching Caddyshack on like a 12-inch TV. I couldn't figure it out. I could every day I'd wake up and watch Caddyshack about three fucking times. Um, but yeah, I don't back then I don't think there was a concerted effort to really do anything to us up here or to make us think a certain way. I just think it was good natured fun. You know what I mean? And now if I watch something, I'm like, why is Nelson Mandela being played by a Hispanic, little person with Asperger's syndrome? Like, what the fuck is going on? We couldn't find, I think these historical figures should be portrayed by, people closely resembling them. You know what I
Yes.
mean? I don't want to see Abraham Lincoln played by Morgan Freeman. I don't want to see Nelson Mandela played by anybody other than, preferably a South African, black actor. Like what the fuck? People are like, fuck.
Yes.
I just can we please just fucking stop? I
Yes.
mean, hey, remember, white people, we have a bitch. We can complain because there was only one nerd in the group that was black. Remember
Yeah, I
Lamar
remember
was
the
black?
Revenge of the Nerds.
All the
Yes.
other nerds were white.
Yes. I mean, I'm glad you touched on some of the warping of entertainment that's going on now, actually. And well, to get back to your point, also, what I don't like about what some people on X are now calling, including myself, we're calling it the Red Pill 2.0, where it's mostly where you and I, let's say, would agree. Implied an agreement that now it's grifting off of men that, let's say, are desperate or lost. But I think that the original red pill, for example, I have no problem with Rollo Tomasi's book, The Rational Male. There's a lot of good information in that. But
I
then
like I like Rolo.
yeah, but then it morphed into this sort of thing where all we're going to do is analyze women, talk about women's, what some women behave like, and analyze the whole thing to death, and keep on talking about what attracts women. I mean, there has to be a point where the analysis of women just simply stops. We can't keep talking about what attracts women all the time because this is kind of a joke at this point. We can't, have, well, not really can't, they do. I just don't prefer to listen. 2 to 3 hour podcasts analyzing women or trying to figure out what attracts women. And I told Paul, if you got to spend more than 5 minutes trying to figure out what attracts women, you have to get your head straight. This is not something to analyze
Five
for hours and
five
hours and
minutes. Yeah, 5 minutes doesn't work. 5 hours is not going to work. But here's the thing: at the end of the day, it's a business model and it's a successful one. You're gonna so anytime I approach it, I have a business idea. I'm like, okay, am I just piling on all the shit that's already out there, or what is the next logical conclusion with this when it comes to my training, my nutrition?
hours.
When I launch my coffee, okay, I'm like, okay, what is a niche that hasn't been filled? Because people are going to go, oh, it's just another veteran owned, but no, it's not. For one, my shit is sugar free, taste awesome. The can is the coolest thing you've ever seen. I load it with nootropics and neurotransmitters. I filled a niche that hasn't been filled. I think what these guys do is they go, okay, what's the next logical progression in this red pill content or the black pill? It's okay. Now there's a segment of men out there that we haven't reached yet. And I think they see, honestly, as much as I like Rolo, I love watching Myron roast them hoes. And it's fucking hilarious because they're so dumb. But it's just like, okay, dude, the gig's up, man. Are you really helping anything? I want to fix problems. I don't
Yes.
think they're in it to fix problems. I think it's like people love to watch trash TV. They love to slow down and look at a fucking wreck, the proverbial train wreck. It's brain rot and people fucking they don't want to read Milton or Locke or Aurelius. They want to read penthouse letters. They want to look at hustler cartoons. They want to watch porno on their little fucking screens a half dozen times a day. They want to see men disparage, shit on, and disrespect women. Because let's be honest, when you've been wronged by somebody and you see somebody else tearing them down, it can feel good. I just don't get caught up on that trap, but it
Right.
can feel
Right.
good.
Yeah.
But I also, I always say, in any kind of relationship or paradigm or dynamic, let's just use the police civilian one. I always say, what can we fix on our end first before we start pointing fucking fingers? You guys need to do this, 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 and this. It's like, the glass houses. Don't throw stones in glass houses. What can we fix on our end first so then we show up to the table to negotiate or to figure out these problems? They don't have any fucking ammo against us. They can't be like, well, you guys want us to pay you $125,000, but that guy over there looks like you stuffed 300 pounds of mashed potatoes into a 200-pound suit. If I call you and I've just been robbed, I've been assaulted, I've been carjacked, this guy shows up, it doesn't inspire much confidence. Okay, if I got to defibrillate this guy twice between from when he gets out of his car to where he gets to the scene, he's not very useful. What can men do first? And I think guys like you, I think there's some great male role models out there. You're going to make your footprint, you're going to grow, you're going to be one of them. Hey,
Hopefully, yes. I want
brother,
to.
yeah, I mean, hey, big things have small beginnings. You've already talked to Paul Elam. I'd be like, holy shit. That'd be like me getting on Rogan's podcast. Joe Rogan, hey, we're going to have this fucking guy that nobody really fucking knows, but we're just going to try a new thing here where we just bring on nobodies. But these, you and I can relate to young men more than we can relate to young women. When it comes to young girls, little girls, even, I try to show, hey, this is how you should expect a man to treat you. If you get anything less, you show them the fucking door. Okay. Um, we can only do so much with young women. I think they need older, solid female role models to look up to. With us, it's taking young men and mentoring them. Hey, look, I used to be you. This is how I got out of it. This is what improved my self image and my self esteem. This is what made me a valuable commodity to women. Okay. If you don't have the looks, you better have the money or the fucking charm. There are some very sobering realities out there that and it's more so you see women doing this way more than men. I deserve. No, you don't. If that's how it worked, all you'd have to do is sit home on your fat or flat ass on your fucking couch and wait for the boyfriend stork to bring you the man of your dreams. If you truly deserved it, or how about you be an attractive fucking package? Like these police departments, you have to offer people an attractive package so you attract the kind of people that you need to be fucking cops. You can't pay somebody $35,000 an hour, $35,000 a year, and expect them to deal with the worst of humanity and to stick around. It ain't fucking happening. Okay, when you present an attractive package, let's unpack what's an attractive package to women. The shit that appeals to them and their fucking hindbrain, that primal fucking blueprint of a fucking man. I look at you and be like, that dude gets fucking chicks.
Thank you.
Okay, even if you were a fucking soy boy and you're not, I'd be like, that dude's pulling some women. You're fucking built, you're intelligent, you're friendly, that's what attracts women that are aware of what they should be attracted to. Well, he's 6'2", he's got a giant dick, and he drives a Ferrari. Who gives a fucking shit? That's why you keep getting the outcomes you get because you're looking for the wrong thing. When you appeal to them via their biological, physiological, evolutionary hardwiring, they can't resist you. You know what I mean? Like Michelle will be like, "Oh my God, your fucking jaw," or she'll like just, she's like, "Oh my God, you're just like made out of steel." And I'm like, I just work out hard. I'm glad you like it. That fucking appeals to them. Being a safe place where if you make a woman feel safe mentally, physically, emotionally, even spiritually, you don't have to look like fucking Brad Clooney, like George, whatever the fuck, George fucking
George
Brad,
Clooney and Brad Pitt.
yeah, Brad Clooney and George Pitt. You don't have to look like those guys. That's
Yeah.
not the fucking. Does it help? Absolutely. But I will never feel like just because of how I was treated as a kid, man. The fact that I was a cop for 15 years and I never got approached one time. I'm like, I just have to. The logical conclusion is you're just not very attractive. I mean, I know my nose is all fucking broken and fucked up, and my face is like nothing but scar tissue. I guess I put myself somewhere between the Elephant Man and Brad Clooney, and but appealing to women in a way that they can't fucking resist. It just resonates with them. You become irresistible. You know, feed your fucking mind and feed your body and feed your spirit. Stop getting into all this base to fucking bullshit. You know, and I think another thing I think that turns women off fucking way more than they're willing to admit are these fucking jackoffs wearing fucking Crocs and Birkenstocks to the gym. If I had a fucking chop saw or a chainsaw with me, I'm so sick and tired of seeing these fucking dweebs and these fucking douchebags come into a gym in fucking Birkenstocks. Fucking seriously, dude. Like, we need to find patient zero for that fucking trend and just fucking just eradicate that piece of shit. Yeah, it drives
I
me fucking
understand.
nuts.
Yeah, the gym. We'll get into the gym etiquette probably in another video, the whole gym thing.
Fuck.
But what
That could be a 2 hour segment.
yes, but what I want to talk to you also about is that one of the things that is very important to men these days, considering there are, let's say, there's an inflation of womenless men. But I believe this though. I believe that this is not a matter of, let's say, so much of being a so-called hot guy or something. I believe that the womanless man problem is a symptom from a much broader problem. For example, um, uh, we are also living in a individualized and atomized society, which creates less opportunities for people to meet each other. And then
100%.
secondly, men are personally not living satisfying lives in greater frequencies. Meaning, not every man. Some men's lives are fine here. But what I'm saying is, I think that it's fine that we're focusing on the problem of men not being able to attract some men, or maybe many men not being able to find a woman. But I believe that, as I'm saying, just to hit it home, it's a symptom of men not living satisfying lives for themselves first, meaning
Yeah.
they're doing poorly in school. A lot of them do not have fathers, as we said. They have less friends. They are depressed. The increase in suicidality in the previous decades, I'm not sure of the statistic for suicidality now, but if I have it correct, if it is increasing by the decade, maybe even increasing in some years, some time frames. But this is what the problem is. My view is that if you do have a satisfying life, you do have a nice home life, you have friends, you might not be guaranteed women, but you likely will have women. For example, in the Gen X era, and I'm in high school, I had a very poor self-image, maybe even going into my late teens until I was 20, had, well, throughout my life at various points, poor self-image problems, depression, or suicidal ideation. Is that, how am I going to phrase this? Is that even in the 90s, even though I had my problems personally, people met each other through just living. You didn't have to go on the internet. You didn't have to think to yourself, where am I going to find a woman? You went outside in Queens, any boroughs in New York City, maybe Midwest life for you. You go outside, you go to a keg party. Like you said, you go to the creek, you go to
Yeah.
a clubhouse. But the women were there already, and you were already socializing. So you developed this satisfying life and a good personality by living and also excelling at school, excelling at a trade, going to the gym. To me, there's too much focus on this symptom of not having a woman. I mean, like for this channel, I think it's great that we're touching upon this because look, let's face it, having a womanless life is, to me, I don't know how there's no substitute for the woman. People could, let's say, work your behind off, work 80 hours a week, go monk mode, whatever. I'm not applying this to all men. I can't read their minds. Being womanless, I'm going to say it sucks. It sucks.
There's no substitute for the right woman. The wrong
Yes,
one could be just as bad in
yes,
the other direction. You
yes.
know,
But if you
I
were to,
think mostly men value our peace. If you don't bring peace to my life, if you cause me stress, anxiety, and that's another thing. You know, with the advent of the internet and all these apps, it's been an absolute. It's the beginning of the end. We're swirling the fucking dream. Let's be honest.
yeah,
And I don't think people have the self discipline. I don't think they have the wherewithal. I don't think they have the self reflection to realize that I got to unplug. Okay. Michelle is not on any form of social media, and it's the most refreshing thing ever. Okay. So I don't have to worry about dudes. You know, listen, dude, like when it comes to looks, she's one of the beautiful people. I'm not. I'm well aware of that. Um, let's just expound on that for real quickly. I got a funny story. A friend of mine, Nikki, a few years ago, she'd been married for 12 or 13 years, coming out of a marriage with two kids, but she's exceptional. She's very good looking, you know, looks like Jessica Rabbit almost, just voluptuous, a doll, total sweetheart too. And she's like, "Hey, I'm gonna try this online thing." I'm like, "Go for it." She's like, "Well, what do you mean?" I was like, yeah, I don't think you know what you're in store for. I said, if you go in there with the right frame of mind, I know a lot of people that met their spouses online. My best friend did. Um, she didn't know what she didn't know. I said, okay, let's just do this. I said, you pick five, six pictures of me that you like, that you think a girl would like to see, and give me some of yours. I'll do your profile, you do mine. And she's like, okay, so we did. An hour later, bro, she had over 100 likes. I matched her with a bunch of dudes and shit. And I texted her, I was like, how am I doing? She's like, well, you're already up to 4 likes. I'm like, Nikki, I said, I've already matched you with like 75 fucking dudes. And she's like, what? I'm like, this is the dynamic we're dealing with now. And this was a few years ago. Um, what has happened is we have driven a massive wedge in between how humans naturally interact, how we
Yes.
naturally gravitate towards one another. Now it is a complete, we're not ready for it. We're not responsible enough with the technology. Okay. You get like straight up addicted. I imagine if they showed like a scan of your brain that when you're swiping on apps, it's probably like taking, a fucking snorting a line of coke or a hit of crack or something. It lights up the same sensory areas of your brain. That's why they develop these phones to be like slot machines. These fucking lowlifes are profiting off of your demise. Like, I'm not going to be a part of that. It's like going to a strip club. Like, why? Or looking at a pizza and be like, that looks good, but not eating it. I'm eating the mother. I'm eating the whole fucking thing. I'm not just going to go like this and be like, man, that smells good. Or going to a strip club and having a girl sit on your lap and, hey, what's your name? Hey, I'm Chad. Hi, Todd. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. I'm not going to pay you to manipulate me. It's bizarre to me, but it has completely destroyed the natural dynamic of how humans interact and how we mate, how we meet, our communities and all these things that are completely innate to human beings, our species. We're communal species. We're not meant to be isolated.
Right.
I mean, I thought about doing these isolation experiments before where I just pack a bag, a pocket knife, a book of matches, and go live on a mountain for a month just to see what it would do to me mentally. You know what I mean? But you get people that can't put their phone face down at dinner. That's how hopelessly fucking addicted they are to the shit. They're not aware of it. But here's the thing. I don't think they fucking care. People have become so accustomed to being constantly stressed, constantly anxious, constantly tired, constantly looking for the next best thing, whether it's in their personal life, their, educational life, excuse me, their life or their private life with their significant other. I could fucking trade up. I could probably get a girl with this. Well, go for it then. And then you're on the hamster wheel and you never fucking get off. You know what I mean? Because we have the paradox of women, especially have the paradox of choice now. You give an objectively mildly or even unattractive woman a dating profile, she's going to have a fuck ton of options. Are they good, viable, long-term options? Probably not. You take men, and what's the percentages like? Women find like 85% of men unattractive. I'm like, I'm not going to subject myself
Right.
to that. Fuck
Right.
that, man. I got enough fucking self-esteem issues. I'm not going to get rejected by you know somebody over some trivial shit. And I think it's destroyed everything. And now you get people when they're in relationships, they're not really in it. They're not showing up. Michelle and we show up for each other authentically and wholly. We always show up. We never drop the ball on the little shit. Our thing is if I stay at her house or she stays at my house every morning, no matter who wakes up first, we leave each other something, some kind of little sweet saying on a post-it note. I'll never not do that because it's a little shit like that that matters the most. We don't. It's her working in a hospital and me being a cop. It's very, very difficult to get time with each other. So, we write each other letters. I write her letters, I mail her letters. She writes me letters, she mails me letters. We do the little things for each other. And, when you show up wholly and authentically, if it doesn't work out, it's okay. When you show up in a phony fashion, on all these false pretenses or some carefully constructed facade that you've made for yourself, it's going to crumble. It's a house of fucking cards. It won't last. Um, and so I think technology is incompatible with human experience unless you're aware of it, unless you like, hey, I tell girls, especially, a friend of mine, Michelle, she's very attractive, very good looking girl, really fucking friendly, really, easy to be around. Basically, the most important things to a guy: don't be a cunt, Be friendly and be cute or pretty. You don't have to be a bombshell. That's another thing. Women and their psychotic fucking standards that men don't give a shit about. I'd rather see you in yoga pants with your hair up than all dialed up sometimes. And a woman's worst enemy is another woman. Man, I don't. There's no sisterhood. That's the phoniest shit I've ever fucking heard, man. You guys hate each other. You can't stand to see your fucking friends happy. Instead of saying, "Hey, help me out," how did you start to look at a relationship, or what did you start to look for in men that led you to landing an incredible guy? Hey, this is what I did. I stopped thinking like this. I stopped doing this. I stopped engaging in this, and he fell in my fucking lap. Michelle and I, the way we met each other, the way we came together, it's like a movie, man. It's so fucking cool. I love our story, but you take all this technology and just fucking ham fist it in there, and it fucks everything up, man. It's a good thing. It's the double edged sword, but the sharp edge of that motherfucker is a hell of a lot longer than the other side. And I honestly, Brad, I think we're at a point of no return. The whole thing has to be scrapped. Everybody has to say, okay, let's hit fucking pause. Let's just sit and listen to each other. Don't talk at me. Don't talk through me. Don't talk. Shut your fucking mouth. This is what people can't. They can't shut up to save their life. They can't shut the fuck up. Shut up and fucking hear what I'm telling you. Let it sink in. Then offer me, your perspective on things. Then let's find that middle ground and meet there. You know what I mean? But nobody's willing to do that. You get these incels that, all men are, or excuse me, women just this. Then you get the women, men just want this, and it's like, okay, well, stay fighting amongst yourselves. I'm gonna live in my relationship, and I'm incredibly protective of it. So that's just, guys, kind of my take on that perspective of things.
Yeah, but everything you're saying is true. But you see, just to reel back in for a moment, push back, not push back per se, but rewind a little bit. Do you think that the reason why we're having this problem where we go to the female uh, issue is because the men are not living satisfying lives? For example, do you think that do you think that men are lazy in forming friendships now? Do you think that men, because I believe that some men are lazy like that. I don't like to usually point fingers at men. I like to be on Team Man. I'm my channel after all is named a male space, but I think that men have gone with this technology, and I don't see. I mean, maybe I don't. It's because I don't go out as much anymore. I'm a middle-aged married guy with two kids, but when I go outside, I do not see the same droves of young men that I saw in Gen X. I don't see packs of men at parks, packs of men at beaches, packs of men in a bar somewhere. So something has been fragmented here. And also, what's going on with men in jobs? For example, Chris Williamson had the economist on, Nicholas Eberstadt, and he said, and I think that Nicholas Eberstadt probably has his facts right. I'm not sure 100%, but he said that there are, if I recall, 7 million men who are not involuntarily, voluntarily unemployed. So this is a big problem. If men are just checking out of society, uh,
Yeah, there's
something,
no. If you're 1,000% right. When I do see men in packs now, it's usually those broccoli head teenagers all wearing the same assembly line outfit, all with their neck bent at a 90-degree angle, buried in their fucking phones, crowding around a piece of equipment. We used to go to the gym in packs. There'd be fucking five or six of us all squatting at the same. All of that's gone. It's all lost. People would
yeah,
rather lay at home on the couch and live a life through a cell phone or a tablet than actually engage in real life. And that's building relationships on a house of cards. It's not real. It doesn't work. It's bullshit validation. You got to get out, like all the guys that I deployed to Iraq in 2004. I still talk to some of those guys. I was on a St. Louis City SWAT team full time for 5 years. I've been through tons of riots, been through hairy, scary blood and guts, chaos, mayhem, fucking shootings, all this shit. I only talk to a couple of those guys now, and it's that hurts. That's a huge gaping hole right through the middle of me to know that you can do shit with other men where very goddamn well you might not survive this, and then to leave and it's like you never existed there. And I'm not the only one. This is like across. This is police work across the board, man. It's fucking bizarre. Um, you're your friendships and your relationships are one of the number one indicators for longevity and happiness in life. I miss having some close friends. I'm like, hey, dude, let's go fishing Saturday. Everybody's being pulled in a million directions. It's like, are you really happy going a million miles an hour all the time? You know what I mean? And then when I do see people in any sort of social setting or interaction, they're not really present. Everybody's on their gadget. Everybody's taking pictures of their fucking food. Everybody's, doom scrolling or right swiping or left swiping or some. It's not sustainable, man. But then it doesn't occur to them. This is why they're unfulfilled. This is why they're not happy. This is why they're not satisfied. Because nothing in your life is real, stupid. You know what I mean? They can't, they physically can't unplug. You know what I mean? And, uh, and yeah, I feel terrible for men now because especially like the younger generations, man, they are literally like hopelessly. When I go to this gym called House of Pain out here, it sounds like holy shit, that's hardcore. I'm like, well, not really. When I'm 48 years old and I'm the hardest worker in the gym, I'm not the biggest, I'm not the strongest, I'm not the leanest. I'm the hardest fucking worker in there. Because guess what I do? I bite down. I don't play on a phone. I don't do shit. I was in there yesterday and there was like five, probably early 20s something of these little fucking jackoffs next to me and they're all slumped over a phone just doing this shit. And I'm just like, I want to like grab them, fashion them into a spear, and then fucking stick them into the fucking wall. Like, hey, dude, take those buggy whip fucking arms and go sit over there and play on your fucking phone. Whatever you're watching dogs ride surfboards, fighting fucking giant spiders or whatever. And there's one asshole, this motherfucker will sit on a piece of equipment for 30 minutes just watching shit. And I'm like, Brad, I don't get it for the life of me. You know what I mean? But it's this technology has driven a wedge into relationship dynamics and you can't come back from it and people are not going to be willing to they'd rather have their bullshit connections through their phone than they would face to face. When Michelle and I are out anywhere, if we're at home having dinner, there's no fucking phones. That's it. It's just her and I, and we're completely present in the moment with each other, and it's invaluable to me. But people are just they're not going to be willing to do it, so fuck them. I mean, and, you and I being men, I want to reach out to these kids and be like, hey, dude, you're missing the fucking point. But, the old saying, you can lead a horse to water. You know what I'm saying? So it's sad, man. I don't like seeing it, but I don't relate to these people in any way, shape, or form. So
Yeah. No, I understand. And I think that wraps up for now. Actually, we've been talking sometimes, and if we go, if we keep going here, we're going to be here till next Sunday. So
yeah.
the next time, because I want to talk to you again. The next time, I want to focus more on perhaps solutions for young men or men as a whole. And with
Percent. Yeah. I believe I don't like bitching. I'm like, let's talk. We all know there's a million problems. Let's start talking about
yes,
solutions to those
and
problems. So
yes, and then also I want to talk to you next time about New York hardcore, metal, thrash, death
yeah.
metal, and
Hey, I am an elitist. Metalheads are the biggest, most condescending elitist fucking douchebags in the world. I'm okay with it, dude. I will happily tell you, bro, that's not fucking metal. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. Like, some of my old like, hey man, when you work out, you listen to Disturbed. I'm like, motherfucker, you're pushing my fucking buttons because that's not metal. But music is a massive passion of mine, and we could do an entire show on just
yes,
really digging deep into fucking certain kinds of music and stuff. So
yes,
and another thing, that's a great way to connect with people. Michelle and I have exchanged probably close to 500 songs now. She is Swedish. Her family's from Sweden. And she was born and raised near Chicago, but she's been to Sweden several times. She speaks the language and stuff. And she's just a fascinating human being, and completely keeps me enthralled at all times. But we exchanged music, for we still do. You know what I mean? It'd be anything from Brian Adams to frickin', black metal that sold four fucking albums, in
well, yes,
Europe
yeah, well,
and
yeah,
everything in between, man. And it's such a neat way to connect.
yeah.
And yeah, we definitely got to do a music segment. But yeah, man, is there anything you want to wrap up on?
Well, I was going to say we should do also some talk about workouts and nutrition sometime. Also, fitness.
I
Eating.
have become what I've realized from having been in this industry for over 3 decades now is probably the biggest issue moving forward and actually making progress and understanding is just too many people are so dogmatic. They really dig their heels in on shit, and they can't be. I'm like, hey, look, like I'm showing you like PubMed stuff, WebMD shit that says this, and this. This is how we interpret it. This is what the data means. Well, but I like doing drop sets and burnout sets. I'm like, they'd be like, hey, I like shaving inches off of my dick. Ain't gonna fucking happen, man. I'm trying to make, if anything, I want it to at least look, you know what I mean? Like, why are you doing things that are that's another really weird, bizarre mental
Right,
aspect of human beings. They do stuff they know is detrimental to
right.
them. Like the relationship thing is one. Give me as many red flags as I can fucking get, and that's the person I want to pursue. Instead of
Mhm.
being like, okay, I'm aware of my stupidity, I'm aware of my hangups, I'm aware of my psychological fucking trappings, and I'm going to avoid them now. Listen, I was the worst about it. I'm like, more red flags in a Chinese army fucking parade, and I'm like, give them to me. I can fix it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's thank you so much for your time, man, and we'll do this again very soon. There's so many things to go over, and we should flesh out a couple more, and then
Yes.
follow on up and say these are the problems, these are the solutions.
Yes. Actually, for yes, exactly. For example, and then we'll say goodbye. Like I would like to, let's say, cover some things. For example, in terms of finance, perhaps men finding what career they're suited for. Uh,
That is huge,
mental.
man.
Yes.
I'm glad you brought
Yes.
that up.
So this is what we got to
What
get to.
what is your, I was a rudderless ship for fucking ever. I've always kind of lived in a, hey, just kind of a fucking fly by the seat of my pants. Hey, I'm going to try this. Hey, I'm going to try that. I don't have obligations like kids or anything, so I have that freedom. But man, finding something that you are truly passionate about that is fucking huge, man. Instead
Yes.
of spinning your wheels and don't let people try to convince you to do this. What really makes you fucking happy and content? For me, it's serving other people and helping other people, especially
Yes.
because
That too.
I know what it's like,
Right. You
and
see. Yeah.
that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So,
Right. See,
okay, I'm sorry, I won't say anything else.
no, it's right. See, that's what I was trying to get to. Meaning that I think that we have to cover these topics also. See, one thing I do like about Rich Cooper is that he does go for the finance too. Meaning that I don't think that people, for example, okay, I'm not in control of someone else's life. You want to be a hedonist and just earn money to have a gazillion cars. I mean, nothing wrong with that either. Though, if you could afford to have a lavish lifestyle, fine. However, the entire hedonistic pursuit with one woman after the other that the red pillars of these days are going for. But I do believe that there is value into earning money to earn, if you can be rich, or let's say have a good finances. That's important to men too, to have a fulfilling life.
Yeah,
And if you
absolutely,
and
especially nowadays. Yeah.
yes, and if you want
Every
to, yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't seem like people are even living paycheck to paycheck. It's basically trying to crawl out of a mountain, or of
yeah,
a mountain of debt.
yes.
Yeah,
So we got to
it's just like, hey, let's lay out a map, a blueprint, and then let's help each other execute our shit. You know what
yes,
I mean?
yeah,
Like
right.
we
You see,
never studied finance in school, and I've had a lot of money in the bank, and I've had no money in the fucking bank.
yes,
I'd rather have a lot of money in the fucking bank. So,
yeah, we got to
um,
cover all this, and we have to cover other things for men besides the pursuit of the analysis of women, as I was talking about before. I want to talk about men's issues generally. For example, mental health too. So perhaps other topics like, let's say, family, child raising, TRT, other things like that. So with that said, I thank you also for being here with me today. Also, and I am looking
yeah.
forward to having another talk with you.
Thank you so much, Brad. It was an honor and a pleasure, and I can't wait to do it again, buddy.
Great. Have a good day. See ya.
See you,
Later.
bud.